Welcome to our Waldner Labcafé online. And thanks a lot that you are joining us. My name is Alexander Biller, and I'm looking forward to share a lot of green facts today with you. Our topic, Green Lab Benchmarking, optimize your building operations. The construction and operation of laboratory buildings are among the most cost-intensive areas of companies. Together, we will look at best-in-group solutions of about 150 buildings in the chemical, pharmaceutical, and life science sectors. What are the key figures for space requirements? What are the costs for building services, maintenance, supply, and disposal? How much costs arise over the life cycle of the property? Our experts will deep dive into their laboratory buildings and share with us their lessons learned. And we have fantastic speaker today. Impulse number one is about how can we make cross-industry knowledge visible to all, with Andreas Kühne, Managing Partner, Bauakademie Performance Management. And Andreas studied economics and real estate management and was head of asset management at Infraserv Höchst. He's managing partner of the Bauakademie Group Berlin since 2011 and was founder of the bench learning methodology. Impulse number two is focusing on the question, why is it necessary to start a green footprint as early as possible? With Jörg Petri, head of site services, Bayer AG. Jörg knows the subject of buildings and building operations in its many facets due to his many years as head of facility management and later head of site services. He has been a member of the IFMA laboratory building benchmarking since 2005 and is speaker of this working group since 10 years. Impulse number three is about what are the key drivers for professional benchmarking. With Markus Hauser, plant manager, infrastructure B at Covestro, Germany. And as a plant engineer and technical business economist, Markus has a lot of technical background since 2009. He is head of facility management and since 2016, as today, plant manager, infrastructure at Leverkusen Campus B. At the end, we will have a Q&A session. So if you have questions, please write it in the chat and we will answer them. So I would say, let's start. Let's learn more from the green facility experts. Take a good cup of coffee and be inspired. So Andreas, it's your turn.
Yes, thanks for the introduction, Alexander. I share my screen. Okay, first of all, thanks for introducing and for inviting the IFMA benchmarking roundtable and for the opportunity to share some of our results with your community. So let me start with a brief introduction of our company. It's called Bauakademie. More than 30 years on the market. We are an institute of the Berlin University, and we deliver services around trainings and education for the real estate industry and facility management professionals. We do consulting stuff and we do lots of benchmarkings. And especially in the benchmarking business unit, we are coming now. And on the right-hand side, you can see our corporate customers. It's more than 70. And these customers, we bring them together in so-called bench learning roundtables. And the field of the roundtables and the different branches and professions, you can see here in the middle. And this goes especially for chemical and pharmaceutical industry. We have one roundtable handling the topics of shared analytic. Agito is also for facility management for industrial buildings. And here is the one we are talking today. It's called IFMA. I will come to that in a couple of minutes. And so we have also the same roundtables for security, for workplace management, for logistics, for amenities, for safety stuff, and so on. Here on the map, you can see in Germany, especially the sites. They are in our bench learning community, and we have data from them how much does the operation of these sites cost. And all these number crunchings and all these bench learning among competitors is it very necessary to give our customers 100% compliance. And for that reason, we have a special certification for the antitrust law in the European Union for quality management and also for information securities. So this is the basis to come into that role, that we bring them as a neutral coordinator, these companies together to organize benchmarking and bench learning. And when it comes now to IFMA, first of all, let me say IFMA means Industrial Facility Management in the chemical and pharmaceutical industry in Germany. It was founded in 2004. So since now nearly 20 years of working together. And in this time, we had more than 50 workshops to define the benchmarking, to do the evaluation of the data, and of course, to discuss the results and to work out who is a kind of best in group and how does it work and what can the others learn from the best in group participant. In total, we have right now 11 companies. You can see here Bayer, BASF, Boehringer Ingelheim, Currenta, site operator from Leverkusen, Covestro, Evonik, Infrasoft, Merck, Pharmasurf, Roche, and Sanofi. And from these 11 companies, we have professionals from 19 sites in Germany. And the topic is that we have every year a full cost benchmarking for facility management, especially how much does everybody spend for maintenance, small maintenance, plant maintenance, but also for the big projects, also for energy management, space, and also how much headcount does everybody has to make the management in the lab buildings as professional as it goes. And every roundtable has 2 speakers elected from all participants. And since many, many years, the speaker from IFMA is Jörg Petri and Hans Hermann Rottkemper from Boehringer Ingelheim. And here you can see again our role as a neutral coordinator is to ensure the antitrust law, to do all the data management, especially the analytics. We are in lead for search for best practices. We do all the moderation and the coordination. And these groups meets 2 times a year for 2 days, and these kind of administration as well. Okay, so this is the background, what we are talking today, and showing you also some figures. So when it comes now to the concrete lab building portfolio, you can see here it's more than 200 lab buildings and also some office buildings. In total, 2.2 million square meters. 6.3 billion is the replacement value, and more than 40,000 users, people are working in these buildings. And here on the map, you can see the locations. I think this is a typical area in Germany where companies from the pharmaceutical and chemical industry are located. And if we take a deeper look on the kind of lab buildings I have marked here, that the major part of the lab buildings is between 10 and 20,000 square meters, and they are quite old, to be honest. I think you know it if you go through the sites and so on, means the biggest part of the lab buildings is older than 20 years. Please keep that in mind when we show you also some figures. And of course, everybody is looking for brand new lab buildings and what can we improve, what can we learn from the existing buildings to improve the new lab buildings. So what we do every year is these kind of analytics. Every single KPI has these kind of ranking. It's analyzed and it's anonymous. This is our job, and every participant found its own data and its own KPIs and is able to compare where in the ranking do I stand. And on this basis, we are looking for the best in group participants. And after that, we are going to moderated workshop sessions to do the bench learning, what we call it, and to look behind the processes, look behind the organization of the best in group. And here you can see some documentations from our discussions since 2015. And so we are talking about BIM, what can we learn, who has started with BIM and so on, maintenance strategies and so on. I don't want to name them all right now. And if we found a new kind of standard, a new kind of knowledge, which is worth to document it and to public is to the public, then we call that a good operating practice standard. And you can find them on our homepage. I will show you the link in a couple of minutes. So I brought two KPIs for you. So one, and this is very important, is how much space does the lab building provide per user? And here you can see two charts. One is showing how much space per user is provided, and you can see the result depends on how much lab space is in a lab building. That means a lab building with only up to 30%, then the KPI is around 20 square meters per user. And this KPI goes up to almost 50 square meters per user when there is more than 80% lab space in the lab building. And the big difference depends on how much technical equipment is in a lab building. And that means the more technique and the more equipment you have, the less people you have. And this is shown on this graph. And if you ask me, did this KPI change in the last years? This is to be seen here on this side. So what I'm showing you now is value from 2021, so almost 2 years old. But if you compare this in average with the last 3 years or even with the last 5 years, these figures are nearly stable. So there is not a big change over time. Okay, next one is how much cost is for energy supply, and energy supply means power, cold heating, water, and also the special types of water you need, compressed air, and so on. And here you can see the same structure. The costs for energy supply and waste disposal is around 14 euros per square meter per year for a lab building with up to 30% lab. But this KPI goes up to almost 90 euros per square meter per year if it is a high installed lab building. And of course, here the costs are increasing from year to year. And you can see this from 60, which is the average of the last 5 years. And 2021, the cost did increase €5, almost 10%. And I don't have the very actual numbers for this year. I guess it's another 10% minimum increasing due to the energy crisis and so on, Ukraine war and so on. Okay, the figures I've shown you, you can find on our website. Here is the link, benchlearning.de and IFMA. There we have several publications. One is including the IFMA benchmarking newsletter, and you can find every year a selection of the of KPIs. How much does facility management cost for operating of laboratory buildings? And some other publications where you can find some key figures from this kind of work. So here we go. Here you find, in case you need some contact addresses, if you want to get in contact with us, having more questions, or if you want to join, IFMA community is still possible to join for new companies or new sites. Thanks for that.
So many thanks, Andreas, for showing all this information about the work of Bauakademie. So there are many global players in this IFMA round. I saw that, and I think it's very important to handle the information very confidential. So a question from my side, how is the antitrust law ensured at Bauakademie?
Yes, good question. Antitrust law is really very important because we are bringing competitors together, and there are exchanging knowledge and cost data that needs to be compliant. And we found an external certification office, which is quite known in the industry, and they do every year an external certification. If we know what is forbidden for comparing, what is allowed, how to do the comparisons, and they check us nearly 1 week, and the final result is that we get a certification, and this certification we deliver to our customers. And additionally, we have a contract with every customers, and our customers and benchmarking participants have to ensure also from their side that they know what is to be done to be compliant with the antitrust law. And everybody has to fulfill this. Before that isn't done, we can't start with the benchmarking process.
Okay, many thanks, Andreas. Then I would say I hand over to the next expert. We changed Impulse 2 and 3, and now I give the word to Jörg. It's your turn.
Thank you, Alexander, and welcome. Andreas talked about the framework of our benchmarking circle, and I'm the one who's talking about and showing you results of our benchmarking. And Andreas mentioned that this benchmarking circle is existing then nearly around about 20 years. And beginning last year at a meeting, we asked ourselves, oh, what about long-term data evaluation? And we said, oh, that can make sense, and we started it, refreshed it in this year when we had the first results of the benchmarking from 2022, and this is the result. I have here as well my CV, but we can spare that, save that. So I would like to show you the agenda. First, some systematics for the evaluation we made, then the results divided in 3 categories: area, energy consumption, and technical cost, and then a summary. So let's start with the systematics. we decided to analyze all buildings which are minimum 15 years a part of the benchmarking every year. And when we counted these buildings, these lab buildings, and you can see here in total it's we are talking about 81 buildings, 46 here, which are buildings which were not renovated since 2007. We have 13 buildings which were renovated between 2007 and today, and we have 22 new lab buildings which are part of this evaluation. And we have the same here on the right side for office buildings. It's an additional information only for you. So you can see here on this slide the key figure categories we analyzed every year in our benchmarking. In total, we are talking about more than 100 KPIs. These are the categories in which they are sorted, and we decided for this evaluation of long-term data to focus on the main KPI categories, which are for interest for every operator of a lab building, and that's it: area, energy consumption, and technical costs. So these are the results in these categories: area, energy consumption, and technical costs. And now let's start with the results. On the left side, you see a slide or a diagram in which we sorted all buildings, not only the 81 lab buildings, but all buildings, depending on the year of construction. So the first bar is more than 60 buildings are constructed 1970 or before, and these are the 70s, the 80s, and so on. And here you can see with these 4 lines the distribution of area in these buildings as a midterm. And here are the data for that. So you can see we have 3 categories, 3 area distributions: net using place, net using area, technical area, and traffic area. This is the sum of these 3, and the last one is the construction area in each building. And you can see we have here the net using area in total, and this is changing between 50% and 57%. There is not a big change over the years. And the next one, here we have the same figure like on the slide before, the distribution of areas. But on the right side, you see the area demand per each employee or user. And this is interesting. Here you can see that the net usable area per each Mitarbeiter was reduced from 55 square meters per employee to around about 42 square meters per each employee in buildings erected after 2010, in the last 30 years. Okay. I change to the next slide, and here's the same figure like before, the space area per each user for lab buildings. And as additional information for you, here are the same for the office buildings. And in office buildings, we have a reducing. You can see much more in decreasing development. The area per each user was nearly halved over the last 5 decades, from about 30 to 18 or 17 square meters per each person. And here a last one, area results by our evaluation. I would like to concentrate you on this figure. Here is the area share for the space for technical systems, and this share was in the buildings before 1917 was nearly 14%, and the new buildings have more than 17%. And this development means that the share was increasing in the last 50 years by around about 25%. You can see it here. Let's go on. Oh no, we have here a last slide for area. This is the floor space required per each employee, and now I have to describe the diagram, the systematic of this diagram. First, we have here bars, which give an information of the amount of buildings which were evaluated. So this is here the sum of buildings. Black means all lab buildings not renovated since 2007. Dark green means all new buildings, and you can see, of course, there are only a few here, one or two, and these are all the new buildings in 2022, and the slightly green bars here are lab buildings which were renovated or modernized after 2007. So this is the amount of buildings, and on this side you can see how many square meters per each person did we have in these buildings, and then you have to look on these lines. Black means lab buildings not modernized, green means dark green means new buildings, and the dotted line means buildings renovated between 2007 and today. And maybe it's a little bit difficult to see here the final results of the last year. So we have here a special view on these, and you can see that the workplaces in new and refurbished lab buildings requires 5 to 10% less space than in existing buildings. These two lines are nearly the same on the same amount, and this means we have here 5 to 10% more square meters in not modernized buildings. So let's come to the second division, the second category, energy consumption. First, we have here the energy consumption of main energies in these lab buildings. And main energy sources means electricity, heat, and cooling. And the heat data are climate adjusted. And first, in existing buildings, you can see a slightly decreasing development, and that's the result of energy saving activities in every company which share their data, in this benchmarking. And the energy consumption in the new buildings, the green one, corresponds to that buildings which were not renovated, the dark line. So here we can say we had energy optimizations also by construction planning and construction, but we have additional demand for HVAC and IT. And the renovated buildings, this is a very funny curve, and we have only the result of the, what is it? The reason for that we here have only a few buildings which are getting here more and more. The renovated buildings have 15% less energy demand or consumption than the existing building, and that seems to be the reason for that seems to be that we have less technical systems in these buildings and a framework by the existing construction. The next one, the same, the energy consumption of main energies, but per each employee in these buildings, and we have here nearly the same development like on the slide before for the modernized buildings, but new buildings and not renovated buildings, existing buildings, have nearly the same energy demand per each employee. Maybe you ask yourself, why is this curve going down? We have a special situation by the data in 2022 because one member of our benchmarking wasn't able to send data to the Bar Academy, so we have here a less amount of numbers of buildings. The next slide. Here's the same, an energy consumption per each net usable space, net usable area, and here you can see that the electricity demand or consumption goes slightly up. Of course, we had in this more than one decade, we had increasing IT electricity demand, but we could compensate this by energy saving activities in these buildings. But that's interesting, I think, for everybody. Both new and refurbished lab buildings require 10 to 20% more electricity demand than existing lab buildings. You can see it here. This is a big figure and an argument in the summary you can see in a few minutes. After electricity here, cooling consumption, we have here more cooling consumption in new buildings, but much more in modernized buildings than in existing buildings. And our conclusion for that is both and new lab buildings have more cooling because we have more devices with waste heat and cooling of this additional separate evaluation stations created during renovation. We are not sure whether it's nearly the reason. We will analyze it in the next years, but that's the result of our data and that about a time frame for more than 15 years. Last one, the heat consumption. Here we have less demand by the modernized buildings and the same demand in the last years for existing and also new buildings, and less demand for these renovated lab buildings. The reasons for us are we have lower floor heights than in new buildings. We have a lack of dehumidification in many modernized buildings. Of course, we have limited ventilation capacity because of the existing construction. And we have a separation of evaluation and laboratory workspace in these buildings, which means, okay, we can reduce the ground heat in these buildings. Last category, the technical costs. And here we have the total technical costs adjusted by inflation. And the technical costs are nearly the same over 15 years, nearly the same. That was very astonishing for our benchmarking circle. We were able to compensate inflation by better procurement processes and so on. But if you look on the new lab buildings, we have less technical costs, and for renovated buildings we have higher technical costs. We could finish the analysis of the reasons for that. We have to look in details for that. That's very complicated. If you look on a summary here, we are talking about 80 buildings, but we are looking forward to get their additional results. So these are the results in detail, and now a summary. I have 5 sentences formulated. New lab buildings require less area per workstation, but significantly more technical space. They also do not require less energy per usable space than existing buildings, and they require about 25% more cooling energy than existing buildings. Renovated lab buildings, number 4 here, require significantly less energy than new lab buildings, and the 5th, new lab buildings have comparable high technical costs as existing buildings. So our message is, in terms of operating costs, refurbishment of existing lab buildings is usually more favorable than new construction. And new construction is, in terms of CO2 footprint, generally preferable. So I think that's a main result of that, and I'm looking forward to your questions in the Q&A session. Thank you, and I now end my presentation and give back to Alexander.
Jörg, thanks a lot. Really great insights and statistics. Many thanks to that you share all this information. Very insightful. I have a little bit tricky question, perhaps. I'm not sure if you can answer that. What do you think? How many years does it take for a laboratory building to cost as much to operate as it did to construct? Can you say about?
Yes, of course. If you operate lab buildings, then you know the construction price, and you should know your annual operating costs, and that means around about 6 to 8 years. You have the same costs for operating a building than erecting it. So that means if you operate a lab building for 40 years, then you have 5 times higher costs for operating than erecting the building. And we also, and the same figures are also existing for production buildings and office buildings. They are different, of course, in the result, but our facets, our demand is please inform and bring the operator into the planning process to reduce the operating costs. That's my credo all the time, all the last 15 years, and hopefully some people hear me now, and follow this credo. Yes, thank you.
Yeah, many thanks. So very important. Include facility management as early as possible in a design process when you think about your new lab building. That's very important. Thanks a lot for this. So I hand over to you, Markus, to our third impulse.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Alexander, and thank you, Jörg and Andreas, for the informations. About 6 years ago, I started in a new department at Covestro, and my new boss gave me a task to compile numbers and for participating in the benchmark. And at the moment, I was not clear why we should participate at this moment with our company, because I had never heard of this community before. And today I use the valuable database for fact-based decisions almost weekly or practically monthly. So welcome from my side, and why we at Covestro are a member in the benchmark circle, and why we are very interested in sharing experience and figures with the benchmark colleagues, I would now explain to you. Yeah, my name is Markus Hauser. I'm very pleased to be here today as a plant manager infrastructure for research and development at Covestro Germany. With a passion for running research facilities and background in technical business economies, I'm excited as a representative for the infrastructure and engineers to speak to you. So as an operation manager, my primary focus is on keeping the future moving, taking responsibility and adding value, as well as enabling researchers, shaping infrastructure and providing safety. And I firmly believe that through collaboration, sharing, and engagement, we can achieve breakthrough results that not only benefit our company, but also contribute to the advancement of the industry. Throughout my career, I have had the privilege of working on variety of roles, projects, and responsibilities. And this experience has honed my ability to lead cross-functional teams, spark creativity, and foster a culture of continuous improvement. And I'm committed to an environment where everyone's idea is valued, and of thought is the key to solve the complex challenges of the future, which are coming there. And I keep my focus delivering results that are consistent with our company's visions and core values. And safety is of paramount importance to me, and I'm committed to providing a safe and compliant work environment for all our employees, so that I'm confident that together we can take our R&D efforts to a new level and make a lasting impact on the world around us. So I'm looking forward to questions and comments, and we'll provide you with a lot of information over the next 20 minutes. So let's work together to make benchmarking a shining beacon of innovation and success. Covestro, to make the world a brighter place with innovation plastics, who we are and what drives us. Covestro is among the leading supplier of premium polymers. So our materials and application solutions are found in nearly every area of modern life. Innovation and sustainability are driving forces behind the continuous development of our process, products, and facilities. And of course, you can check out our website and learn more about Covestro or get to know the Covestro management and our strategy. You can always find background information on history and learn about our mindset, solutions, sustainability, and innovation drivers. On the slide here in the bubbles, they see the sales in 2022 and the employees, number of employees, and the number of production sites. They see the different and the focus on global challenging, as well as the number of people who deal with the topic of circularity on a daily basis. Yeah, you see 1,500 people only doing research for us. Covestro materials can be found in various products, for example, in future mobility, modern notebooks, or life-saving materials, comfortable cars. In several furniture products, for example, they can be found in secure documents, shoes, sports equipments, functional textiles, vehicles. And what do plastics needs in the 21st century? They require excellent and outstanding properties. They offer revolutionary possibilities, and they are valuable as a resource. And they become essential, or let's say we cannot do without them today or tomorrow. And circular economy enables a climate neutral future and is the key to resource conservation, climate and environmental protection. So plastics are driving force implementing circular economy. We want to become fully circular. We want to contribute to make circular economy the global principle. And this is important. We anchor it across the whole company at the moment. Sustainable thinking and acting is the key to a brighter future, and brighter means to us a world which is in goal with the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. They are realized. The groundbreaking innovations, materials are needed in order to achieve these ideals. This is why to us sustainability and innovation belong together as a part of circular economy. So, but I mean, where does this all happen? We are present all over the world by 10 R&D hubs. We drive innovation in America, in Asia, and Europe, especially Leverkusen, Pittsburgh, and Shanghai. That's our main spots or hubs. And courageous innovations are necessary to master the current global challenge. With our research and development, we strive more sustainability and SDG compliant products and solutions. So this global presence enables us to understand local needs and develop tailored solutions. And all this happens in the context of defining development in our IFMA benchmark. We compare together with the local building managers the collected data from German sites to derive insights and trends to make sites more efficient, environmentally friendly, and follow the goal of climate neutrality. So we invest in our future in order to pursue all the previous mentioned goals. And yeah, that's a big challenge. Moving to the main part of our question, what are the key drivers for Covestro's R&D infrastructure? For example, performance improvement. Every accident, for example, and in most cases, every accident costs performance, and in most cases could have been prevented. So preparation and discussion of possible solutions are necessary, and this is the main purpose of our benchmarking. We want to identify areas for improvement and learn from best practices of other organizations. By benchmarking against industry leaders or industry-like approaches, the organization can set performance goals and strive to achieve higher levels of efficiency, productivity, and quality. But by studying innovation practices in other industries or organizations, companies can gain insights that stimulate creativity and foster a culture of continuous improvement. As an example, They might mention the reduction of air exchange rates through clustering when handling hazardous materials, or conservation of air humidification methods, which results in significant steam and thus CO2 savings. In the end, the focus is always on more efficient and effective processes which have been identified and analyzed by top professional staff. So the elimination of inefficiencies as well as strategic derivation of values, new projects and opportunities. For example, decarbonization and energy efficiency projects are always in focus. Coming to learning and knowledge sharing, as Andreas mentioned before, one of the greatest achievements is the guidelines and experience reports which are developed in the benchmark circle and the benchmark collaboration, which are available and to the general public. So they are intended to facilitate knowledge sharing and know-how transfer between organizations. Participation in benchmarking activities can create opportunities for networking, collaboration with industry peers. And just to give an example, there are, which Andreas mentioned, topics of energy efficiency, operation principles, air handling systems, and laboratory space planning, for example. They have been prepared as lessons learned and made available for download. So that's what you can find on the Bench Learning website. That's part of the results of all these benchmark activities. And of course, benchmarking tools can be used very well to improve the organization's own reputation by reaching or even exceeding benchmarks set by the majority, and serves as a value tool for organizations to drive continuous improvement, to stay ahead in this constantly evolving environment. Yeah. In summary, professional benchmark serves as a value tool for organization and drive continuous improvement, gain a competitive edge and stay ahead in consistently evolving business environment. And of course, by learning from others and adopting best practice, organization can improve performance and optimize processes, achieve their strategic goals, or generate a corresponding response. So what does this mean for our strategy? Here we can see examples how we prepare our decision-making process. 5 steps to decision-making. We call it 3D view, starting with a collection, data collection, and the identification of the key performance indicators and the definition of performance indices. So in the next step, we identify together with local asset workshops the hotspots or determine the map of necessary needs and requires in all our regions and hubs. And at the end, we define our strategy to execute the right projects. Of course, this is done in an iterative review process, and our philosophy behind is identify the right projects and do the projects right. That is a slogan which is really implemented in our organizations, and yeah, we follow this philosophy. To put it in a very practical way, now I brought you an example in which we implemented a project in 2017. So we discussed trends and measures at each location, and yeah, we identified drivers and projects or measures for saving, especially in this case. Look at the scale. In building 1, we pursued the goal of renewing a new, more efficient ventilation system with sensible use of waste heat, for example. So in the graphic, you can see the consumption of electrical energy over the course of 5 years on the scale left. So in 2018 to 2019, the project was implemented, in which particular system were shut down. So you can see it at the line going down. After commissioning in 2020, it was found that steam consumption had fallen significantly, but the electrical energy leveled off at a similar level to 2017. So the fans and all the additional pumps of the heat recovery system led to steam, but not to steam electrical saving. Yeah, the steam go down, and the electrical saving was more or less nearly the same. So subsequently, this in turn led to a new project, also to start the ventilation system in a weekend or night reduction program, which is currently being implemented in the planning stage. So that is how we use the benchmark in our next step, in our next project, in our next strategy. Okay, yeah, you can see that Covestro is intensively involved in benchmark activity and contributes to circularity. So our motivation is to grow with products and technologies, but that the benefit society reduced our impact on nature orientation to make the world a brighter place. I would like to thank you and look forward to your questions and comments, as well as the shared dialect. Thank you for your intention.
Thanks a lot, Markus, for your presentation. And I look to the chat. There's a direct question from Christiane to you, Markus. Dear Mr. Hauser, thank you very much for your interesting presentation. I'm wondering how you align the budgets with the different sites for implementing the hotspot projects.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, we discussed this project. Yeah, we discussed these results with our colleagues in the regions, and the budget is coming from their budget. We have a central budget for all the activities, because every hub is responsible for his own area and his own projects. But when we show it what the results of the benchmark and which results are really going to a better future and to better opportunities, yeah, I think that's something that's coming to the people in other regions, and they think about these topics, and that is what we want to achieve at this moment. Yeah, thinking to change. That is the most reason.
Okay, thanks a lot. Then I would say, Andreas, come back to the table in the Q&A session. In the chat at the beginning, there was also a question from Christiane. She wants to join, or she is interested to join the IFMA benchmarking circle. So how does that happen? What should I have to do? Knock the door, call you, and say, hello, I'm here? Or is there a procedure to get in?
Yes. So first of all, yes, it is still possible for owners and operators of lab buildings to join the IFMA benchmarking community. So right now we are 11. We have a maximum capacity of 15 companies. And regarding Christiane's Glanzmann's question, Roche is already with sites from Mannheim and Penzberg part of the community. And from our side, it's not a problem at all if someone else could join. I think it's a Roche internal discussion. And of course, it would be interesting for us maybe to get also lab buildings from Basel, maybe, or from other places, to make the table of analytics even wider and more representative. So yes, it's easy. Just get in contact with me or with one of the speakers. The contact address from Jörg Petri is also on our slides. I already put the link in the chat where you can find additional information from the IFMA benchmarking, also the guidelines and the newsletters and so on. And there's also a contact email address. And then everybody who's interested, we will have a chat together with our site, neutral site from Bau Academy, with one of the speakers. You should be open-minded. You should be bring an internal motivation to share your knowledge and also to take, of course, the key results to improve your own organization. And if that is fulfilled, everybody gets an invitation as a guest, and then you can get in contact with the group and learn how we work together. And after that, you can make a final decision. And it's not expensive, but of course it does cost a little. It's an open book calculation, and the costs are shared among all participants to do the benchmarking and all the administrative stuff.
Okay, great. So three or four more companies are welcome, and then every participant has to pay less. That's also good. But I think the exchange of knowledge, this is really a good thing, especially if you have many facilities worldwide. So you have to make strategic decisions for the future. So I think that's really great to be part of this benchmarking circle. Andreas, another question. Now you present benchmarks for laboratory. Does this type of benchmarking also work for other topics, such as energy performance of laboratory buildings or office buildings or other buildings in the campus?
Yes, good question. Yes, it is possible. We from Bauer Academy, we come with a methodology how to define KPIs, how do the evaluation, how to get in connection with all the internal IT systems such as SAP and CRM and so on. We have to do a mapping for that, but it's quite easy to set up a new benchmark roundtable. Regarding energy efficiency of lab buildings, this topic is already handled in IFMA benchmarking. I wouldn't say that it's necessary to open a second lab benchmarking. So everybody who's interested and everything worth to discuss and to learn regarding lab buildings is to be done in the IFMA roundtable.
Okay, thanks a lot. Now, Jörg, a question to you from the chat. Which parameters mainly influence the operating costs? Can you say something about that?
Yes, I can. The main key drivers are energy, technical costs, and indirectly the space demand of people working inside. We have a mean value for technical costs and also energy costs at Bayer, around about 18 to 20% of the operating costs a year are costs for energy and also for technical costs. And these other two blocks we can influence if we are forced to make some to reduce our operating budget, which is daily work really. And if you look on a special building here in our site at Berlin, I'm working for. We have a lab building, and we measured how many energy is used for the HVAC systems in this lab building. It was nearly 90%. 90% of the total energy coming into the building was used or is used for HVAC systems. So you have a combination of energy demand and technical costs also. If you want to reduce it, you have to look on these both parameters, and of course we try to force the third parameter, which is the space demand per each employee, but there are limitations by regulations and also by our customers which are working in these buildings. But you can also come to good results in using and operating in a much more efficient way these lab buildings, if you look on these parameters.
Okay, thanks. Another question to you, Jörg. How must laboratory buildings be designed today in order to be able to use them as long as possible?
The short answer, I'm looking on the clock, is they must be flexible in their using. and flexible in installing new technical systems. I think that are the main points. And you could read my our thesis. We are forced in the future to use much more our existing buildings. So that's the main task for us. How can we use these existing buildings by being flexible in them? Yes, that's it.
Okay, great. Thanks. Then, Markus, to you back again. In your opinion, what are the biggest challenges in benchmarking?
Yeah, I think the biggest challenge in benchmarking is to bring the right stakeholders to providing the right numbers, because I mean, a lot of people working with all the figures, and in these big organizations we have different departments providing different or steer different service providers, for example. And the correct conclusion of the results and integration of them, it's one of the big challenge, and the needs of everyone involved must be taken into account. A common understanding must be involved, because I mean, the efforts, we do a lot of efforts bringing all the figures together, and but we let's say, more and more we understand what is the result and where helps us to interpret a scope or a strategy, and yeah, it's absolutely helpful. But of course, it's a challenge to bring all the right figures here on board. Yeah.
And let me add 2 sentences. I think one main task is creating trust between the members. They are sure we are comparing the same figures, and then we are talking in a trustly atmosphere about the results and the consequences. That's very important. That's my experience.
Right.
Okay, thank you. Another question, Markus, to you. What measures were initiated during last year's extreme price increases in gas and electricity? I think for benchmarking, it's a worst case. Now, what should we do with all these numbers from the last years? Now it's completely different.
Yeah, I mean, the measures, at first we create a task force where we bring the right experts together, which can help here to identify the biggest levers on the basis from benchmark data. So we try to find out where are the most users of electricity and steam consumption, and yeah, they were identified, and a lot of measures were up to close a complete building. Yeah, we close and we also speak to each other, that what Jörg mentioned before. Yeah, we trust each other, and we can have a call, have your ideas, what do you do, and we have a good exchange about all these topics. And yeah, in the last IFMA benchmark, that's the participant confirmed savings around 10 to 15% for the main energy sources, which was a great success, not only for us as a company, but as a company of laboratory building operators in Germany. I think that I mean, Andreas, maybe you can comment something on this, but for me, it was a great success that we can all say, yeah, we all was part of it. Yeah,
I can fully agree. The dramatic increase of the prices due to the Ukraine war, and also the lack of energy, especially gas, yes, made the participants also for lab buildings and office buildings and so on, and everybody had his own projects to reduce the demand of energy. You will remember the 19 degree in the buildings, and switch off lights which are not necessary, no lights on the facades, and no commercials and advertisements, and so on. And all these topics together made it up to 15 to 20, 25% less energy demand. And now we will see in the next winter. I hope we won't have a similar situation, but the question is how many of these projects are so sustainable that we have these saving effects again. We don't need the 19-degree back, but there are several other topics which I think can be done again to save energy in a sustainable way.
Yeah, and let me add this, Andreas, we don't have the figures from 2023 because, I mean, that would be interest now because we shoot down a lot of buildings in the winter time. So from January to April, and that will have also influence the figures. So that would be curious seeing what's going on in 2023.
Okay, great. Thanks a lot, Andreas, Jörg, Markus. Many thanks for your time and preparing your impulses, your great impulses and the statistics. I think that's really cool for the audience. I hope for the audience you learned a lot from our green facility experts. If you missed parts of this event, or if you want to look in the statistics, for example, from Jörg, we will publish this recorded video in about 2 weeks. It's on our website and on YouTube. There are also the other events from the past about Green Lab certification, well-being labs, digital labs, and other topics. So you can go there and watch it. And as Waldner, we in the past we were also asked, hey, do you have tips to reduce our operation costs? And for that, we created a sustainability booster program to reduce immediately these things. So I show you my shirt, green. It called Green Basics. And with this program, normally we make a workshop together with facility and lab user, because one thing is what is technical from a technical point of view possible, and the other thing is the lab user can make many things, and they also have to make many things. So it's always a workshop together, lab use and facility. And normally we go in step 1 on site, make inspection, look what is status quo, for example. Then we make tailor-made actions. We discuss and prioritize them in a workshop, and then we also can support with implementation, especially in the technical point of view. So we can consult and realize them. And at the moment, we have many cool projects and many lessons learned we could share in these workshops. So if you are interested, also you can call me. And a preview to our next Academy event, it's on the 7th and on the 8th of December. It will be on site in Berlin. And together with the Association of German Architects, we are organizing 2 exciting half-day formats with a lot of networking. On Thursday at noon, we will start with expert impulses at the German Architecture Center in Berlin. In parallel, the first day, everybody who cannot join on site, we will stream the first half day also online, live. And on Friday morning, we will visit the Charité, a new Charité building. And we also offer the possibility to visit connectivity space and try out applications live in a digital lab, so hands-on. So I think a very interesting format, 7th and 8th of December. It's on our website. Thanks again to the audience and especially for the experts. Thanks. Bye.
Bye-bye.